Hi there. My name is Olatunji Shobodu, Emmet Leadership Academy. At Emmet Leadership Academy, we nurture leaders based on truth. Our focus is on leadership. We're committed to helping nurture the right kind of leaders, the leaders that you and I need, the leaders that the world needs. And welcome to day two of the 9-day exploratory uh, program that we have called Becoming Authentic. Becoming Authentic. That is, how do you become an authentic leader? Or if you like, how do you lead with authenticity? How do you lead? This is day two. We started yesterday with day one. And yesterday we spoke about what it really means to be an authentic leader. What does authentic leadership truly mean? That was our focus yesterday. We laid the foundation, as it were, for the entire program. All right. And yesterday, you would recall that we made a distinction between walking your talk and walking the talk. A huge, a profound distinction, pointing to a gap that usually exists between what the leader expects and what he or she gets from the people. The leader would strive, expecting to be adjudged as being authentic. But unfortunately, most times the people don't get the same message, don't feel the same way. And that can be disappointing. And we talked about the fact that, yes, there would be that kind of gap because the leader may be focusing on walking his or her talk, whereas the people are expecting the leader to walk the talk. And that, look, leadership isn't about you. All right. And so you don't define the terms, under which you execute that responsibility. I drew attention to the example of Joshua, and I did say that when he was succeeding Moses, it was made clear to him that he needed to follow the rules, the guidelines that Moses had laid down, all right, and not to depart from it to his left or to his right. That means that there is a way to do leadership. There is a way that he was expected to conduct himself as a leader. And so it wasn't really up to him. In that instance, therefore, which talk should he walk? His own talk or the talk as dictated by the role or the responsibility was given? Certainly, if you were walking the talk, then of course you'll be living up to the expectations of your people, up to the expectations that they have of their leader within that context. But if you were walking your talk, then you would be living up to, your own ideas about how to do leadership right. And so we established that. And we did go on to say that uh, the disappointment for most leaders with regard to this issue of authenticity comes out of the fact that they tend to just focus on one dimension out of many, that forms the basis for your followers to adjudge you authentic or not. So you may think that all that matters to being authentic is that you live true to your word. Okay, that your actions, that they line up, they align with your word. And the surprising thing is that while it is true that that itself is difficult to accomplish for many, it is in fact the case that there is more than that single dimension for assessing authenticity. Authenticity can be looked at from seven different dimensions. And that's why we are, on these exploratory program, over the course of 9 days. And we're going to start with the first dimension today. We identified the various dimensions yesterday. And by way of reminder, the first dimension is that you need to be authentic, all right, in your identity. That's the first. The second dimension is that you need to be authentic in your purpose. The third is that you need to be authentic in your gifts. The fourth is that you need to be authentic in your principles. The fifth is that you need to be authentic in what? The fifth, in your words. And the sixth is that you need to be authentic in the use of your authority. And finally, you need to be authentic in the nature of results that your leadership produces. Those are the seven dimensions. We're going to start digging deep today on the very first one, which is your identity. And for this discussion, I'll be focusing using three words interchangeably, pretty much meaning the same thing. Your identity has been the same as your personality, has been the same as your character. Okay, so today is a discussion focusing on you, focusing on who you really are and who you are expected to be in order to be a judged and authentic leader. That's what we'll be looking at. So, permit me to revert back to my set of slides as we begin our session today. All right. So, it's becoming authentic, how to become an authentic leader. Authenticity, yesterday we were reminded of the fact that it um, is attractive. It's a top priority for leadership, but it is also a major challenge for many leaders. It's a major challenge for leaders. Leaders want to be authentic, but achieving that status is no mean feat. Is no mean feat. It's not piece of cake by any means. All right, so let's quickly get on with our discussion today. We have quite some ground to cover, and I want to register with you. Don't walk the talk. Don't just walk your talk. It's not enough to walk your talk. It's enough to walk the talk. And is day two, we're looking at being authentic in your identity. Being authentic in your identity. This is one of the hurdles that you need to scale if you want to be regarded as an authentic leader. There are seven hurdles. On each of the seven, you need to make the effort. All right. The more authentic you come across in as many of the dimensions as you can, all right, the greater the chance that your people will adjudge you in totality as an authentic leader. Okay, so we're looking at identity today. What is it about, identity? What is it about, being authentic in your identity? Today we'll be exploring the essence of self-awareness. So when we're talking about identity, we're raising a very important question. The question being, do you really know who you are? Who indeed are you? Because leadership starts with you. So, who are you? And you need to understand how your identity affects or shapes your ability to lead, and indeed to lead with authenticity. So, we'll talk about understanding the power of self awareness, or if you like, of your identity in shaping your authenticity as a leader. Let's look at how self awareness drives authentic leadership. How self awareness drive authentic leadership. I have been in sessions, with executives where the issue of self awareness, had to be discussed. And one of the questions I ask is, do you really know yourself? How much do you know yourself? Who can beat his or her chest and say that you truly, truly know yourself? That if you describe yourself and we were to get like two, three people, to describe you, will the description of these people will it coincide or will it agree with the description that you have given of yourself? It often We often end that discussion with many, the majority, overwhelming majority of people, acknowledging that they need to go back to do a lot of work about discovering who they truly are. Discovering who they truly are. Now, let's look at why this is important. Leadership starts with you, though it is not about you. Very instructive statement. Leadership starts with you. You are the leader. All right. Let's leave for the moment, the idea that the box stops on your table. It is true, the box stops on your table, but that conveys huge responsibility. What it doesn't convey is your responsibility towards who. Unfortunately, when we say the box stops on your table, that may give a wrong impression, for leaders who don't have the depth of understanding about the responsibility to lead. All right, it gives the impression that you have the final say, you have the authority, you take responsibility. What it leaves out, which is most important for leaders, is your responsibilities to who? But your responsibilities to your people. You are leading a group of people. That's why we must have that understanding that leadership starts with you, but it is not about you. Leadership is about those you lead. Leadership is about the people that have been put in your care. All right. We have expectations, okay, that you will take care of these people, you will transform these people, you will add value to the lives of these people. And so the idea of the box stopping on your table must be in reference to that. Because once you leave that out, the chances are that, if I may use the word, the leader's head may begin to get swollen. The leader may begin to feel so important, more important than he or she is actually expected to feel. The leader may lose sight of the party that is most important in the leader follower relationship. And that's the people who are following you. Why? Because their destinies are tied to you, because they're looking up to you, because that's the huge responsibility that you have, because you have an opportunity to contribute very positively to what becomes of society by the value that you add to those lives. It's always important to have this perspective, and have it right at the onset, when of your foray into the leadership cadre. So leadership starts with you, though it does not. It's not about you. It's not about you. Leadership is about what you have to offer to enrich the lives of others. What do you have to offer to enrich the lives of the people that have been put in your care or in your charge? That's what leadership is about. Are you really able to add such value? Are you really able to offer them such value that their lives will be enriched, that when they look back tomorrow, they will be glad that they came across you? They would thank God that they had the privilege to be supervised by you, to be supported by you, to be trained and developed by you. That's what leadership is about. That's what leadership is about. Okay? Leadership is about is you adding value and color to the lives of others. Is you adding value and color to the lives of others. Now, you determine the value that leadership has to offer your people and society. Okay, so if we have that understanding, then it's within your purview. All right. What has your leadership got to offer the people, your people? You are the determinant of that. You will always be the determinant of that. It comes back to you. It comes back to you. To that extent, is a huge responsibility as well. So you see, your responsibility as a leader is that you add value to people. Lives are at your mercy, as it were. All right, the future of people, um, you have been given the privilege to shape. All right, a wonderful privilege. All right, it is. However, what you have to offer. You have to determine what you have to offer. So it's pointing back to you. It's all pointing back to you in the sense that you really need to think about, what do I have to offer? What do I have to offer? Because I determine what I have to offer. And let's see what the implication of that is. The quality of your leadership, therefore, cannot exceed that of your personality. What are we saying? Because you determine what you have to offer the people you lead, the quality of the leadership that you offer will be limited by the quality of your personality, by the quality of who you are, by the quality or the strength of your character. Is that important? You can't have a weak character and be a strong leader. You can't have a weak character and be a strong leader. All right. You can't have a modeled up identity and be a strong leader. You can't do leadership as it ought to be done when your personality lacks value. Now, the value that you have to offer your people is the value that is inherent in your character or in your personality or indeed in your identity. That's what we are talking about. I think that this point is very profound. I think it's something that all of us should bear in mind, should focus on, because if this can sink in, it will change our perspective, to leadership. It will challenge us to come to the table with greater seriousness, I believe, with a greater intentionality, all right, to want to make the difference indeed in the lives of others. So we can immediately say here that you really have to look at yourself, all right, because if the strength of your character determines the quality of your leadership, then you really have to look at yourself. It means if you want to improve what your leadership has to offer people, you have to improve on yourself. You have to improve on the strength of your character. You have to. You have to. And that's why this discussion is important. In fact, it is the reason why we are starting our examination of the dimensions of authenticity with you, because it begins with you. It starts with you. You can see why this is all so important, once more. You can see why this is all so important once more. Okay, so you, now who are you? And why is your identity, why is your personality, why is your character important? Because you, the real you are why you do what you do. At times, some people wonder and look at, why do they think the way they think? Why do they act the way they act? Why do they speak the manner, in the manner they speak? That's because that's who they are. That's who they are. You accept you are pretending, in which case you have to be conscious about that. You cannot, all right, do something that is not you. You are the reason why you do what you do. All right? That's the uniqueness about you. If we want to understand why you do what you do, we need to understand who you are. We need to acknowledge that who you are is at the root of the way you conduct yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you behave. That's the power of who. In which case, like I said, except you have gone out of your way and decided to pretend, we can understand you by examining what you do. All right. Once we all agree that you, at your root, the reason lies there, that will point us, explain to us why you do what you do. And therefore, when you look at the leadership relationship, until your people know you, they can't know what your leadership has to offer. They can't know what your leadership has to offer. Some people want to be leaders and they want to separate their person from their role as leaders. It's not possible. It's not possible. The foundation of your leadership is you. You are the leader. You bring yourself to that role, to that leadership role. And so, because you are the leader, your people want to know who you are. They want to know who you are. Because when they know who you are, then they know what you have to offer them as a leader. How will they know what is on offer without knowing you? You want them to go with the words that you have said. You want them to just take your promises. Fantastic. But I guarantee you, they want to go beyond what you have said, to learn, to discover by themselves who you are. Now, if you understand that, then you know as a true leader that it's important to first understand yourself, to be self-aware, and also to advertise yourself, all right, to ensure that you carry yourself, you are true to yourself in all the things that you do. And this is not the case with a lot of leaders. This is not the case. Okay, so let's bear that in mind. We're still examining self-awareness, how it drives, and the fact that it drives, the truth that it drives authentic leadership. So leadership is the journey, therefore, of you, making you known to your people. That's what leadership is about, is the journey. Because it doesn't happen in a day. It doesn't happen in two. It may not happen in a year, but with each passing day, as you interact with your people, they get to know more and more about you. All right. And the journey is such that they know you. They must come to a place where they know exactly who you are, where they are not second guessing you, where they're not, they come to a place where they know exactly who you are. And I hope that their discovery will be a personality that is attractive to them to follow. So what we're saying is that when your people discover who you are and it's attractive to them, they commit to you. They commit to you. But if it's not attractive, they won't. If they can't place you, if you have conducted yourself in a manner that they are finding it difficult to come to a conclusion about who you are, they won't commit to you as well. And in case you are projecting yourself to be somebody other than who they have come to discover that you are, is a problem for you. That means you are not authentic. That will be their conclusion. So they're interested in you, in who you are. And so the earlier a leader comes to the realization that this leadership responsibility is a journey that entails making known to your people who you are. The earlier you understand that, the better. The earlier you understand that, the easier your assignment would be. The better you understand that, the easier your assignment would be. So, from all that we have said, you can see that it's all about who you are. It's all about who you are. It's all about who you are. Okay. Now, let me make one or two illustrations here, and so you understand again why leadership is about who you are, why your character is so important, why your character is so important. I'm going to give you three instances, and I will start with the parable of the sower. All right, at Leadership Academy, we nurture leaders based on truth, so we draw a lot from biblical truths. Now, you know what the parable of the talent, the parable of the talent, what it says. A man, a king, a leader went away. All right, but before he went away, he gave talents, resources, um, assets to his servants. There were three of them. And he gave them different quantities. He gave them according to their abilities. So he knew their abilities. And he said, look, you guys do business with this while I'm away. Do business with this until I come. He said, occupy till I come. And he went away. And when he returned, he then asked for their report card. He wanted to know how well they had occupied, in quotes, or they had done business with what he gave them. And the first one came and said, well, you gave me 5 talents. I have multiplied them. Now I have 10 talents. And he said, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in little. Now you would be given much. He said, come up. Now you would manage 10 cities. Okay. And the other one came, he said, you gave me 2 talents, I've multiplied them. He said, well done. The same thing. Now you will multiply 5 cities. And then the last one, the lazy one, came and he said, well, I know that you are a hard man. You are not a good man by any means. So I decided not to bother myself I just kept your money. You ensure that it is safe, and here it is. Have your money back. And the man looked at him and said, "Okay, now you are lazy and you're a wicked servant. If you knew that um, that I was wicked, or that I was reaping where I did not sow, you ought to have kept my money in the bank, okay, so that when I come back, at least I would have some interest on it. Okay, at least I would have interest on it. Meaning also that when you actively engage in the utilization of uh, the resources, you would have much more than interest. Okay, your returns will be higher than what you would get from the bank. I mean, that's what we still find, all across the world today. So, what's the point that I want to bring out? You see, he gave each of the successful servants a higher leadership responsibility. He had given them talents before, resources to manage, but then he said, now come and manage 10 cities, come and manage 5 cities. Now that's an express leadership responsibility, because they proved that they were people of character. He said, well done, good and faithful servant. Those are character attributes. He didn't talk about their skill. He made it known to us invariably that the reason that those fellows were able to accomplish that feat of producing a return from the responsibility he gave them, from the resources he gave them, was that they had the strong character attributes of goodness and of faithfulness. All right. They were people of integrity. They were people who had moral excellence. They were people who were committed to doing the right thing and avoiding doing the wrong things. And they were people who were diligent, faithful, and loyal, all right, to the cause of their master. Those are character attributes. Those are character attributes. So you are looking for people who would be true leaders. They are people of character. Character is at the root of strong leadership. All right. You want to be a strong leader, you have to develop character. That's one example. And we could go on and on. But, I think that suffices for the point that we want to make here. The other point is, you look at the case of Jesus. I'm giving another example here. And, before he started his ministry, before I would say before he was given leave to go ahead and put together his team, all right, which marked the commencement of his ministry, of his mission, he was tested. He was tested. Now, we typically get very spiritual about those tests, but I want to stay, I'm spiritual as well, but I want to stay at the level of what it teaches us about how to assess readiness for a leadership responsibility. You want to know if people are ready to lead. One, what you would be on the lookout for are certain what character attributes do they have? What are their strong character attributes? In particular, there are certain specific character attributes that you will be looking for. All right. When you don't find it, it doesn't matter how skillful the people may be, they are not well suited to lead. They can't, they won't do leadership right, all right, as it should be done. They would end up as disappointments. They would end up as bad leaders, all right. It's not an issue of skill, as we have seen. So, what happened? Jesus was given 3 tests. The first one was the test of how he uses his authority. Okay, so he was told, you are hungry. He had fasted 40 days and 40 nights. He said, ah, you are the Son of God. I mean, why not command the stones to become bread and you eat? For you to command stones to become bread, That is involves demonstration of power. Of course, he could. He had the power. He could have commanded the stones to become bread, but he didn't. And he said, look, life isn't about bread. All right? Life is about leadership. Why do I come to that conclusion? He said, man does not live by bread alone. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Jesus, God was his father. God was a leader to him. Fathers are leaders. All right. Parents are leaders. So, in a way, he was saying, you and I are not supposed to live by bread alone, not just by what we eat, but much more by the words that we hear from the mouth of our leaders. All right. So, you want to become a leader, you have to be the product of another leader. To be the product of another leader means that you have received, heard the leader's words, received the leader's words, and you're committed to acting on the leader's words. That's what he said. Okay. And one of the very important things you must take away from that, encounter is that he refused to misuse the authority given to him. A leader must never misuse the authority given to him. That's one of the reasons that you delegate to your people. Because when you delegate to your people, and please, unlike many leaders do, don't just delegate responsibility, delegate authority as well, at least to some extent, and do it so that you can see how will these people use authority when they have it in full. Okay. And you can see whether they are ripe enough because they know how to use authority. And if they don't and they misuse it, well, they are still under your purview. So you can still manage them, you can still rein them in, and you can continue to mold them, to train them, to develop them until they know how to use authority. Okay. And it takes character to use authority well. So the the tests that Jesus was subjected to was to ascertain the strength of his character and to qualify him to lead. If he had failed, he couldn't have proceeded on that ministry. The second test was the devil taking him and saying, look, your father, your leader has made you a promise. Said he will give his angels charge over you. So jump off, this, the pinnacle of this tower, because provision has been made for you. Nothing is going to happen to you. Your angels are going to come and they're going to be there for you. And Jesus said, no way. Said, no way, it is written. That's something I will talk about some other time. All right. And, he said, you shouldn't tempt the Lord your God. Again, he was demonstrating the strength of character there, maturity there. That why do I have to go there and jump just because you say so? I have no reason to do that. All right. I have no reason to test the commitment of my leader, because that's what Satan wanted, to prove that the word of God was true. No, he had no reason to do that. So again, he was expressing his faith in the leader. His faith in the leader. You see, when we talked about the parable of the sower, he said, well done, good and faithful. Can you see that? All right. He was expressing his faith. I'm not going to try that. I'm not going to jump just because, I know what my leader has said. I'm okay with what he has said. I believe what he has said. And you will not make me, put him to test. Another test of character. And finally, the devil said, okay, now, well, look at the whole world. I own it. And if you just worship me, I will give you everything. And that meant, all right, don't worship your leader, the person who trained you. Talking about God, just worship me. Why? Because I have things to give to you. Now, if Jesus had fallen for that, it would have revealed that he lacked character. It's a lack of character that will make you betray your leader for a morsel of meat. Whatever the devil was showing him was a morsel of meat when the person who actually created the whole world is his father. All right, but he said, no, there's only one person that I'm committed to worship, to give regard. That's my leader, that's my father. So you look at it, it was a test that established that he had a stronger character, and therefore he was qualified to lead. He was qualified to lead. So you see that leadership is founded on character. Too many leaders lack character. Too many leaders lack character. It's not, and qualification for leadership is not as much competence as it is character. It's not as much skill as it is character. And of course, if we come back to the parable of the sower, which is the third example that I want to use, I believe you know the parable of the sower. A sower went out to sow and he carried a seed and he sowed. Some seeds fell on the wayside. All right, the birds of the air came, they ate them up. Some seeds fell on stony ground. And the crop began to grow. It didn't have root. The sun came up, scorched it, and it died. Some seeds fell on thorns and among thorns, and the thorns grew and they choked the seed and it didn't survive. But some seed fell on good ground, and they grew, and ultimately they produced a harvest. When you look at the process from seed to fruit, is also a test of character. What happens is that if you and I went through that process, which is what we go through before we can succeed in anything, it's our character is being developed and shaped such that we produce the desired result as a reflection of the success of a character formation process. If you take, for example, the stony ground, when Jesus was giving the interpretation, he talked about people who received the word. That is, they were under training and they received the word and they were excited. But then suddenly some challenges came up and they were offended. All right, they didn't expect the challenge, and they decided, I didn't bargain for this. What is all of this? What they have taught me is not correct. And they left. They decided to leave. Now, they rebelled. They lacked character. They lacked character. And you will see that when we talk about some of the attributes, of this character. They lack character. That's why they would leave, facing that kind of situation. Those with strength of character, who exhibited endurance, resilience as, interesting character attributes, they will ride that wave and they will continue. Okay? They lack character. So when you look at it, whether it's those, who received also the teaching and They didn't understand it. It's the same thing. They didn't commit themselves enough to understand the teaching. After all, some other people understood it. And when you look at those, who fell among thorns, who got carried away with, you know, uh, riches, quest for the riches, worldly things, superficial things, it simply talks about people who lacked self-discipline. Self-discipline. So you see that the the parable of the sower also talks about the fact that you need character to become successful. All right. So, character is at the root of leadership. Character qualifies you to do, to be given leadership responsibility. So, let's look at walking the identity talk. If you recall what I said yesterday, I said every leader talks in 7 dimension, talks in inverted commas, and they have to walk each of those talks. They have to walk each of those talks, and it is walking the talk because they are not the ones defining those dimensions. Those dimensions are as defined, all right, standard when you come to leadership responsibilities. So remember some of the things that I said yesterday. To be authentic is to walk the talk, is to walk the talk. All right? To be authentic is to walk the talk. And we said, walk the talk. Don't just walk your talk. Now, authenticity of leadership isn't walking your talk, but walking the talk. I think I've said enough. You would hear more of that over the course of this session. So don't get tired of hearing it. It's the core of what we are discussing. It's the core of what we are discussing. So authenticity isn't leading as you want, but leading as you should. It's not leading as you want. It is leading as you should. Now, you stay true to what leadership demands, not what you choose to give. All right? You stay true to what leadership demands, not what you choose to give. And listen, to give less than what leadership demands is to stray from the path of authenticity. Okay? And so, like I just said, a true leader talks in 7 dimensions and must walk each of them, must walk each of them. That's the challenge of becoming authentic. So every leader talks. Now, coming to one of the dimension, every leader talks with her identity. And the authentic leader truly walks it. Every leader talks with her identity. But the one that we adjudge authentic is the one that walks his or her identity. Okay? Now, so let's make certain distinctions here. Who do you say you are? Who do you say you are? Because that's what we're talking about. Who are you? All right? So there is who you say you are. There is who you must say you are because your people want to know who you are. And you are under obligation to let them know who you are in your best interest. Until they know who you are, they don't know what you have to offer. They can't appreciate why your leadership holds any value. And if they can't, why should they commit to you? And if they don't commit to you, you can't influence them. You can't achieve any meaningful thing in that relationship. Every relationship thrives on the basis of trust as a minimum requirement. So, who do you say you are? Then, who do your people see? There's who you say you are, there's who they are seeing. Is there an alignment? Is there an alignment? So, there are two dimensions that you must address here to be authentic. You have to close the gap here. You have to close the gap. But there is an even more important gap that may exist that you need to be mindful of. Who do you say you are? Who does leadership, the role that you have, that is the basis for the relationship? Who does that role expect you to be? You can see this is the second aspect of this dimension. Who are you? And who do the people believe you to be? Who are you? And this role that you have been given, this leadership that has been thrust upon your shoulder, who does it expect you to be? It would be fantastic if you are who your leadership role expects you to be. That's you being authentic. All right? Who you are is not as important as who your role as a leader expects you to be. That is, you are expected to be relevant. Your character is expected to be relevant for the purpose of your assignment. And it is when you exhibit that character and your people see that character in you that they adjudge you authentic. So, who do you say you are? Who should you be to lead right? Who should you be to lead right? We've talked about, and that implies that there is a character profile required for you to be a true leader, for you to qualify to lead at all, for you to be able to do leadership right. So we're going to examine your character relative to that. And what we want for you to be authentic, what you want for you to be adjudged authentic, is that there is an alignment between those two. So you are not allowed to just showcase your own character, because your character, as it is with many leaders, may be completely at variance with the character expected of a true leader. So you may be a man or a woman of character, but your character may be inappropriate for the leadership assignment that you have been given. Let me give some examples of some possibilities, and we find them today. There was a time that Jesus said to Peter and his colleagues, he said, within the next 24 hours or thereabout, you guys are going to deny me. All right? And they looked at him and said, Peter leading them very emphatically and sincerely, by the way, we will never deny you. In fact, Peter said, well, others may deny you, but as for me, it will never happen. I won't deny you. It won't happen. I will not deny you. And he said, okay, no problem. We will see whether I'm the one lying or you guys are lying. But they all denied him when the time came. When he was arrested, everybody ran away. Every single one of them ran away. At some point, Peter gathered himself, and started walking, observing him from far, and was following them. And he told Peter, you are going to deny me 3 times before the cock crows. So number one, all of them ran away. So even Peter, who was able to, all right, gather himself and to follow them to where he was taken, when he got to where he was taken, 3 times he was identified as one of those following the master. And 3 times he denied the last one vehemently. And then the cock crowed. What transpired there? Jesus knew who they were. They didn't know themselves. That's why I said their answer wasn't given out of boldness or anything, or out of an intention to misrepresent. No, it wasn't given out of exuberance. It was given out of sincerity. They believed, they never expected that they would ever deny him. So when they faced the situation, they all came down like a pack of cowards. The point is, they didn't know themselves. At the time they were expressing, swearing, boasting, they did not know themselves enough. They weren't sufficiently self-aware. In particular, they were not aware of their own vulnerabilities. They didn't know that there are situations that they will face that they will not be aware, they will not be able to stand. All right, yes, they will hate to deny their master, but they did because they didn't know who they were. They didn't know who they were. So as far as they were concerned, at the point where they were swearing that they will never deny their master, they were purely hypocrites. They were hypocrites. Sincerely so, but they were hypocrites. Why? Because they made declarations that they did not live up to, that they couldn't live up to. If the tables were turned and Jesus was the one following them, do you think any follower will commit to them? No. No. So you have situations like that where the leader is projecting himself. The leader is making a representation of who he is, but it's false. He's making a representation that he can't live true to. Why? Because he doesn't know himself enough. He's not sufficiently self-aware. And because of that, he runs the risk of hypocrisy, of being adjudged to lack authenticity. Peter didn't know who he truly was, but Jesus knew who he was. Just like many of us today, as we relate with our leaders, there are things we expect. There are things that, we boast, we swear about, and we feel bad when our leaders express, a lack of faith and they don't agree with us. And they are saying something like, if the situation arises, that you cannot stand, we will get offended. We forget that they can see us. They know us more than we have taken the time to know ourselves. When these things happen, they've always been there. They've always been there. If you ask the Will Smith, before he stepped forward to go and slap the other guy, you know, a year or so ago, he would have told you it was impossible. He would never do that. That's what he would say. But the situation came. He did it. Question is, did he really know himself? He didn't know himself enough. He wouldn't have known himself enough. But it's a responsibility that a leader has to truly know yourself. And it's not something you do once, it's something you observe over time. But it is crucial because that's the foundation of your leadership. And it's only by knowing yourself that you can also appraise whether you have the character that leadership requires. Because there is a character that leadership requires. And it's not person specific. It's not that you have a certain character, I don't have, therefore, but both of us can be good leaders. No. No. There are a set of character attributes that you need to operate as an effective leader. And that if you can live up, exhibit those attributes, you'll be adjudged authentic. You'll be adjudged authentic. The same Peter, by the way, later on, all right, you see, after he disappointed himself, of course, he grew, he developed, he understood who he was. Those shortcomings, I believe, were addressed. At a later date, the elders saw them and wondered, who are these men? They have turned to something else. And they said, oh, they had been with Jesus. We know who they had been with. Because at that point, they had experienced a change. They had developed stronger character. They exhibited better attributes. They had the capacity to endure at that point. They had become more resilient. They could look at a situation where they were threatened with beatings, with punishment, and they replied frontally that, look, we will be excited to receive beatings, to be caned because of the one who we believe, who we are committed to. That's not the same set of people, who denied that they knew the master just a couple of months before. So that's the way it is. That's the way it is. And so they went on to become, authentic leaders because that situation did not repeat itself, didn't repeat itself. So that's an example. So what we are talking about, walking the talk, as far as the character is concerned, is that there is the authentic character. There is the right character required for leadership, for your leadership assignment. And you need to develop yourself, you, into that character. You need to cultivate those character attributes in yourself. That way, who you are would align with who your leadership, with the character that your leadership assignment requires. It gets you closer to you, the authentic leader that you want to be. All right, that you want to project. It gets you much closer. It gets you much closer. All right. So let me use another illustration, of Peter to again make the point about, character and why leadership requires a particular kind of character. If you look at, I think this is in John 21 or so, Jesus was asking Peter. It was like his own test. He asked him 3 times. He said, Peter, do you love me? And every time Peter responded, yes, I love you. He said, feed my lamb. The third time, Peter was, exasperated. He said, you know that I love you. He said, well, feed my lamb. Now, what was Jesus saying? It's like, and everybody at that time knew Peter was going to be the leader of the team. He said, look, it was basically drawing his attention to the fact that your character is important if you want to succeed as a leader. And that there is love, which is a character attribute. You need to engage it and express that love by attending to the needs of the sheep. Feed my lamb. Of course, that feed my lamb is loaded. It's not just talking about, bread alone. It's talking about, all that it takes for the people to be developed. All right. So you see in that example that character, the leader's attention was drawn to character as the foundation for qualifying for that leadership role and the instrument to be engaged if they must succeed. All right. So it was saying love is the character of true leadership. So if there is a character to develop, an attribute to develop, is love. Is love. And that's not strange because leadership is about people. And you are not supposed to owe any man anything except to love him. But do we all come to the leadership responsibility with that? No. And that's not the kind of thing that anyone would like to hear, especially in the corporate world. But they're beginning to talk about it now. I mean, you actually have, Harvard Business Review articles now talking about love, talking about kindness, talking about discipline. Okay. Which otherwise you would have thought, it was just some guys preaching or whatever. No, it's the truth. So to walk the talk, Jesus was saying to Peter, you must walk in love. And that you express by feeding the people that are committed into your hands. It was precisely what Jesus did himself. It was the same formula. The same formula. Exactly the same formula. Okay. So there is an identity or a personality or a character required for you and I to develop if we want to do leadership right. We must walk the talk of character. All right. Or we must walk the character talk or the identity talk or the personality talk. Like I said at the onset, I'm using these terminologies interchangeably. So please don't get, uptight with my use. I rather prefer to use character, but there is a reason I'm using the 3. Okay, but interchangeably. The message does not change, by the way. The message doesn't change. So what are those character attributes? I'm going to lay 8 of them out for you and challenge you to measure yourself relative to them. It gives you an idea if you're struggling with leadership. If you're true to yourself, you will find it somewhere in these 8 attributes or in as many of them as would indicate that these are areas where you need to improve. Number 1 is moral excellence. It's a character attribute. What does it talk about? People with moral excellence are people who are virtuous. All right, moral excellence also means virtue. They're always doing what is right. Their commitment is to do what is right. And they always avoid doing what is wrong. It doesn't mean they can't make mistakes, but they will never go out of their way to do something that they know to be wrong. If they ever did something wrong, it will be because it was a mistake that they didn't know. That's one of the attributes that you need, that a leader, a true leader, must exhibit. Number one. And by the way, every one of the attributes I'll talk about, you can develop them. All right. And it doesn't matter whether you're above 40, because you often hear that statement is fool at 40 is a fool forever. There is no that statement can be, it can be more false than all right. So there is no time that is too late to change. Okay. The second attribute is faith. Is faith. It's exercising faith in all your endeavors, being diligent, being faithful in what they do. Faith, diligence, conviction. These are all requirements for good leadership, for authentic leadership. Paul was a man of faith. I have fought a good fight. I have finished my course. I have kept the faith. Fight the good fight of faith. He said, the just shall live by his faith. And if he doesn't, I would have no pleasure in him. So you need faith. You need faith. You have to cultivate faith because there are levels of faith. All right? That's why there is strength of character. Because you and I can exhibit the same character attributes, but the degree to which each of them is developed can vary markedly. So the second is faith, and I'm not taking a lot of time to go through them because I have another program that I called character-centered leadership, where I talk in great depth about this concept of character-based leadership and why they're so important, what the attributes mean, what the relationship between the various attributes are, how you can develop, these attributes and strengthen yourself on a continual basis. All of that are dealt with in that program, character-centered leadership. Okay, so the second attribute is that. The third is knowledge. The third is knowledge. You would notice that many times this was one thing everybody acknowledged with Jesus. Acknowledged. I said, where did this man get this wisdom? What wisdom is this? So we have never seen it in this fashion. It was different. It was a man of knowledge. And it's a character attribute. Having insight and understanding by someone who is committed to seeking truth, to pursuing truth, to continually develop self for self-preservation and living true to what they know. So if you find, for example, the moral excellence, you can see that when you add knowledge to it, the more you know, the more you increase in moral excellence, because the more you know what is right, the the easier it is to avoid what is wrong or getting caught up with what is wrong. This again shows you how these attributes reinforce themselves and why they are mutually important. Okay. And not, they're not mutually exclusive. Okay. They are self reinforcing, mutually reinforcing. Okay. So that's number three. Number four attribute is self control or self discipline. You find you have to be a man and a woman who is able, who has the ability or the capacity to subject himself or herself to a strict principle driven life. All right. That makes them predictable. That makes them, it makes them resilient, as it were. It enhances their capacity to resist vying away from the path of authenticity. Self control. Self control. Okay. And there is resilience or endurance. You may even want to use patience here. All right. Having staying power in the pursuit of your role. Staying power. Endurance. Endurance is a strong character attribute. That's why people talk about resilient leadership. Resilient leadership. That's why they talk about wanting resilient leaders. Okay, you see that attribute is important. It is a character attribute. Godliness is important. You need to be God fearing. I recently wrote, you can be a good leader, but you're not a true leader. True leaders are not just good leaders, they are God fearing as well. All right. Being God fearing is complying with godly principles and dictates. All right. And godliness is profitable. All right. It said bodily exercise is good, but godliness is profitable. You know, kindness is the seventh attribute. That's watching out for the interest of others, giving, supporting others as best as you can, especially in their times of need. Kindness. This is something that, a lot of people have started talking about in the last couple of years as one of the most important things in their view that a leader must have. Is a character attribute. It's a character attribute. And then you have finally, you shouldn't be surprised about this one, love. Like I started out by saying this was what Jesus told Peter. It was like telling him, you are going to lead the people, all right? And you need to love them. When he was asking him, do you love me? What he was pointing to is that you need to love my people to show that you love me. I don't really want to hear that you love me. That's why he kept on asking the question. He wasn't expecting Peter. He wasn't going to go away with what Peter said. You know I love you. No, that's not what he was looking at. He was trying to make a point, to emphasize on something that he has to demonstrate in the future, not now. Because loving me is not by word of mouth, it's by what you do to my people. All right, that's why I say feed my people, feed my sheep. That's why John was writing, and John said, you have not seen God. You can't claim to love him. The way you love, if you don't love your brother, how can you claim that you love God. So the way you show that you love God is by loving, showing that love to the one He created. The way you love, show that you love God, is by obeying what He has commanded. All right? Whoever loves me will obey my commandment. So you see, He wasn't expecting Peter to say, I love you, and so he was going to go away with that. No, He was saying to Peter, demonstrate this love by obeying what I have said. Feed my sheep. Demonstrate this love by doing to my people. Show it to my people by helping to meet their needs. So love is a mix of attributes displayed towards others to make life worth their while and to bring out the best in them. Why do I say love is a mix of attributes? Because I like the definition of love in 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 7. When you truly look at it, you see virtually every of the other attributes we have mentioned contained in that definition. That's why Jesus didn't have to talk about the eight. All right, although the eight are important, He singled down the one that was most profound, the one that if you develop it, you would cover a lot of ground. And that's the one that I'm emphasizing here as well. So those are you know, the attributes of the character that leadership requires. Those are the attributes that you need to develop. Those are the attributes that you must make to define you, so that as you live them out effortlessly, what your people see of you, the true you, aligns with what they expect of you in that leadership role. That's authenticity. That's authenticity. What we are saying is that you need to move you from where you are now in alignment to the role that you have taken responsibility for, your leadership role. And that is by developing these attributes and continually doing so. And I know that the more you do so, the more effortlessly you become, because people who exhibit these characteristics, they don't fall into deceit. They're not deceivers. They walk themselves out of hypocrisy. And one of the reasons is that they are committed to moral excellence. Remember what we said. Moral excellence is about doing the right thing and simultaneously avoiding the wrong thing. So you won't find them engaged in illegalities. You won't find them engaged in illegitimate things. You find them looking out always to do right. They're people of integrity. They're people who are honest. And so they can be trusted. All right. And they hold this virtue dear. They hold it there. They don't toy with it, and they won't allow others to toy with it. They won't be misled into seeking after attributes that are not relevant for their leadership responsibility. So, authentic character is evidenced by substantially showing these attributes. The more of these attributes you show, the more authentic you would come across. Your people will discover it, as we've said. They're looking, you're an open book, and the people will see it the same way Jesus saw through Peter. They will see it in you, and they would know, who you truly are, and they will see that those attributes are consistent with the attributes that they expect in a good leader or of a good leader. So authentic leadership is about leading with love. You can relate to that now, isn't it? It's about leading from the heart. You can relate to that as well. It's about leading with the right character. Leading with the right character. Very profound. Very profound. I hope it challenges you. And I hope you are beginning to, see yourself, to appraise yourself in all of this, and that you will take steps to do that sincerely. Okay. So to project authentic character, you must be deeply aware of yourself, and you must develop yourself into the right character. And I believe you know exactly what to do, what that right character would be. You should know that, by now. Okay, so what more do we have? The power of authentic character. And we'll close, at this point. The power of authentic character. And I'd like to submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, the security of your people's future is in knowing who you are and that you possess the right character to lead. That's their security. That's their security. When they can see that who you are is in line with, the character of a true leader, expected of a true leader. And each of those attributes, by the way, are attractive. I mean, they are attractive to anybody. Okay. Um, Therein lies their future. So they can commit themselves to you. They can hand over their lives to you. They can make the decision to follow you, all right, without looking back. Without looking back. That's what we mean by the security of their future. That's what we mean. And I like this. I wanted to end with this, that when you look at Malachi 3:6, it said, I am the Lord. I don't change. That's why you, sons of Jacob, are not destroyed. I don't change. I don't change. You see, that's why the character of the leader is the character. Is not your character, my character. No, because to that extent, what we expect of leaders is constant. It's constant. It's constant. That's why I have issues at times talking about leadership style, because there shouldn't be too much of a variation in style, if there is an alignment, a proper alignment in character. There is the character. We have seen it. All right. We could talk more about it, but we're limiting ourselves here. Said, I am the Lord. I don't change. That's an example of a leader indeed. They are predictable. Why does God not change? His character is the same. He has no need to change character. That character is what is required for him to do everything that he's doing. And he wants you and I to adopt the same character, because that's the character that will make us operate like him. So leadership involves a transfer of character attributes. It involves shaping character. And so you have, once that character is in place, you become predictable. You are not one thing today and then you are another thing tomorrow, and the people are wondering what's going on. You are not predictable. They don't know what's going to come next. Why will somebody want to hand his life over to you when you come across as such? When you come across as such. You see, I am the Lord. And you need to look at one of my programs, I call it the I am leader. Basically, to also give you a different perspective of this issue of self-awareness as a leader and the power of it. Because I think most leaders are not taking sufficient advantage of this all-important provision. Said, I am the Lord. I know who I am. And this is one of my attributes. I don't change. Now, people with moral excellence can't change. They always do. They are known to do right things. People who are self-disciplined, they are predictable. They're predictable. So you can see that all that we have discussed, you see the relevance. Because when you are predictable, you secure the future of your people. So that's why you sons of Jacob are not consumed. Think about it. If you and I were serving a God who changes his word, we won't even have a Bible today. So how do we know what next we can hold on to him for? That's why this was important. He told Moses, I think it's Exodus 3, 13 and 14. Moses said, well, now if I go, to the children of Israel, who should I say sent me? He said, tell them, I am that I am sent you. I am. Very important. Very important for leaders. Very important. Who are you? That's what we've been talking about. The foundation of everything that you do as a leader. That's why Jesus never stopped declaring who he was. I am the bread of life. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the shepherd of the sheep. I am the living bread. Because it's important. And because it's important that those who are following you know exactly who they are following, what the offer of your leadership is, what they bargain for when they commit to following you. So, as I said yesterday, concluding today's session once again, a leader will struggle without authenticity. A leader is certain to struggle and make a fool of himself without authenticity. So, as we have been declaring, walk the talk. Don't just walk your talk. It's not about your talk, it's about the talk. As a way of reminders, 7 ways or 7 dimensions, to stay authentic. You have to be faithful or be authentic in your identity, in your purpose, in your skills and talents, in your principles, in your words, in your authority, and in the results of your leadership. In the results of your leadership. Once again, being authentic is leverage at its highest for any leader. It's leverage at its highest for any leader. So please walk the talk. Learn to walk the talk. Don't just walk your talk. And that's it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to day 3, and we'll be looking at focus on purpose, I believe. The purpose of your leadership. Be authentic in your purpose. You want to join me? That's a very important session. If you missed yesterday, you know where to find it. You need to catch up. This is the second day. We're on for 9 days, as it were. All right. So for those, in case you need help to lead with authenticity, you can reach out to me, and I'm going to showcase, a code. You can scan the QR code on the screen and, book a call with me. And let's talk about what your needs are. So scan that QR code and let's talk. So you can book a call. That QR code is the same. It takes you to the link under book a call, or you can send an email to me. My email address is so stated ossobodu at gmail.com, and express, your desire, and then I can follow up with you, or you can send me a message via WhatsApp on my line, and that you have that line there. Uh, plus 234-809-891-1826. So for help, for leadership coaching, for help specifically in the area of authenticity, or indeed for help to build leverage for greater effectiveness in your leadership assignment, feel free to reach out and let's see how we can help. My name remains Olatunji Shobodu, founder and CEO at Emmet Leadership Academy. At Emmet Leadership Academy, we are committed to nurturing leaders based on truth. Nurturing leaders based on truth. So we have been on the program, Becoming Authentic. How to become an authentic leader. That's what we have been discussing. Please go ahead and join us. You may also want to join the Authentic Leadership Academy so that you enroll, become part of the community of leaders you must have seen in the various slides. Join the Academy of Authentic Leaders, or join the Authentic Leadership Academy. You can see that in you can see that all right, you can join that community by scanning the QR code on the screen, and that's a community where we walk week after week, interacting among ourselves. I give sessions regularly, twice a week, and all that we're doing is building up our capacity to live, you know, as authentic leaders. So many benefits to enjoy. Reach out and join. It's a token, it's by subscription, it's not free. A monthly subscription, but it's token relative to what's on offer in that uh, community. And it's not free because we want only serious people to join, those who are willing to learn, those who are willing to share, those who are looking to improve themselves, those who take the subject of leadership very seriously, those who have a value for the lives of others, and who are willing to stand up to be the example of the true leader, that they expect from others. That's the group that this academy is intended for. And there also, our commitment is to nurturing authentic leaders based on truth. And truth for us is found in the Word of God. So you want to join us if you prefer to pay, whichever the currency is. If it's in Naira, scan this QR code. And if it's in dollar, you can scan this other QR code. Either way, uh, we will receive your request to join, and we will integrate you into the community. I hope you've had a great time yesterday, today also, and I look forward to tomorrow to build on what we have discussed over the last 2 days. It promises to be very insightful and exciting, and I hope you join me there. Okay, tomorrow we'll be focusing on purpose. Enjoy the rest of your night. God bless you, and bye bye.